listening to the Fit Mind, Fit Body podcast, where we explore the connection between a fit body and positive mental health. And our big mission? It's to help 10,000 runners to develop fitter minds in the next 2 years. I'm your host, Michelle Frost. Let's get moving. Welcome to this episode of the Fit Mind, Fit Body podcast. Today we hear from Nikki Wynd, and she shares just what it's like to go and run in one of the toughest ultra trail runs in the world, Badwater in America. Not only has Nikki run this 3 times, but she's actually been the first woman, so she's won it. She's gone on and also represented Australia in many ultra distance runs as well. So enjoy this inspiring chat with an amazingly talented runner, Nikki Wynd. On Fit Mind, Fit Body today, I am excited to introduce you all to Nikki Wynd. Hello, Nikki.
Hello, how are you?
I'm really good. We just had a bit of a chat on the other side of the recording, and I was mindful that we were about to start talking about cool stuff that would be better being recorded, not recorded. So pushed you in here so that we could get this podcast started. It'll be like, I've had a few people on the podcast recently whose names I find hard to pronounce, but my oldest daughter's name's Nikki, so I'm going to find it very easy to
how very good.
remember your name. So that's good. Let's start with where you grew up, Nikki. Where did you grow up?
Yeah, so I grew up in Melbourne in One Turner. So grew up, brother and sister, grew up in probably a very active family, but I wasn't a runner, never ran in my early days. Oh, wow. I played competitive tennis and basketball, but didn't start running actually until I had my son. So
oh, wow. So
in my 30s, yeah.
So if we skip back to before we skip into when you started running, so can you remember what it was like for you when you had to do school sport and things like that? Was it something you enjoyed? Like you said, you had an active family, so I say it wasn't like an unusual thing for you, but the sound.
Well, to be honest, running was probably not my thing, but I was obviously, sporty family, and quite often, the teachers at high school would go, right, you've got to do the cross country team, and I'd actually say to my mum, can you please write me a note so I don't have to do cross country? And that is a true story because I just, wasn't into running, didn't really enjoy running. And I always, probably because I was quite competitive and did well at my team sports, they'd always say, right, we want you on the cross country team. I'd be, Mum, you got to write a note. I don't want to do it. So it is funny. Even Mum does, we have a bit of a laugh now because she goes, I still remember those days.
Isn't it funny? So what was it about cross country that you think that you didn't want to do? Did you find it hard, or like, can you remember?
I just think I just didn't like running. I just think, it wasn't something that was probably back then was natural to me. And, I played tennis, played basketball, so totally different, stop-start sports. And, it just didn't interest me. So
I suppose if you think about it, I hadn't thought about it like this before, but maybe when we're kids, we're a bit like everybody now because we're all so into our social media and being distracted all the time and doing things. But when you're a kid, you're like that, you're always wanting to be entertained, and maybe running felt boring in comparison to, playing basketball and tennis and things. It's kind of, fun. I don't know.
And it's on your own, too. Like, I love those team sports. I had really good friends from tennis, from basketball. And I just think I just looked at it and was like, it's, it's something you do on your own, where now I actually treasure those hours out on the trails or the track on my own. So I think, as you get older, it's just a different change in mindset as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting. All right. When you left school, what did you do?
So just work, like I worked, what did I do? Like I've had a few, I never went to uni, I think a few different jobs, and I worked at Adidas actually for 15 years. So that was a bit, that was a bit of fun. And then from there, I've sort of gone, I had a couple of jobs in between, and now I work for an allied health private practice out in the southeastern suburbs of Melbourne. I've been there 10 years. So
oh, wow.
Yeah, so I love my job, love the people I work with. It's a great industry, obviously, physio, myo, podiatrists, like work with an amazing team of healthcare professionals. We have a high performance gym, so I get to train in the gym with the guys. So
Oh,
yeah, it's really
handy.
cool. So yeah, it's a great, really good job that I really enjoy.
So you do like an administration type of role? Is that what your role is?
Practice manager. So we
Oh,
have
wow.
two locations, so manage both of those.
I
Yeah,
can
so yeah, I
imagine
love it. It's good
that's
fun. It's
busy.
pretty full on, pretty busy, but I love my job.
All right. Now, you mentioned that you have a child.
Yes.
Yes. And that your child, that was sort of when you first had your child, that was when you started running. So tell us about that. How did that happen?
Okay. Well, so my child is now nearly 19.
What?
So yeah, I know, it's crazy.
I've got one of those. And 19. He's my baby though.
Yeah, as you know, like it's crazy how quick the time goes. So when I had him, I was at Adidas and I was like, right, I was really excited to have 12 months off work because it was probably like the first break I'd had, in your working career.
Yeah.
So I just had this thing in my head, right, I'm going to, get out walking, get out exercising every day. And so I had him in the jogging pusher and it just sort of started from there. Like, I'd walk for an hour and then he'd sleep. And then some days I thought, right, if I just keep walking while he's sleeping, he'll get a good sleep. And so before I knew it, that sort of then became running. And then, sometimes I was running 3 or 4 hours a day with him in the jogging pram. And just from there, I suppose I sort of just loved being out there, did it rain, hail or shine. And then ended up from that doing Oxfam because I had a group of friends just from my gym and they said, hey, we know you run a bit. Would you be keen to join our team? And I was like, yeah, why not? So that was my first race I did. Yeah.
Because that's like, how old was your son when you signed up to the Oxfam?
So he was born in 2004 and I think like I did Oxfam 2008 was when I did it. Yeah.
So you didn't do any, or did you do any races, like fud runs and things? Or it was all really, just sort of your own?
Not really. No, like just sort of ran just for fun and ran with some of the guys from the gym and then we'd sort of meet on a Saturday morning, go for a run, do a boxing class, and then we went, hey, we'll do Oxfam. So that was my first sort of run.
So before your son was born, sorry to skip back again, did you do any exercise? Like, was that your between school and, while in those working years?
I just went to the gym. That was like I went to the gym and did boxing classes, spin classes, but that was it. So always have been pretty fit and active.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So always did something, but still didn't run really. Like just would go to the gym and do classes and strength work and stuff. But no even running during that time.
It's pretty cool that you've had that fitness mentality though, it feels like all your whole life. And it perhaps again it's come from your upbringing.
I think my dad, it's funny now looking back, I suppose you don't realize as a kid, but I go, every photo he's got the top off, he was quite sort of buffed and he went to the gym. So often growing up, he'd take us to the gym with him. So, you'd come and go and do whatever. So, and he ran and was very, very active and even he was a vegetarian back.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, back that long ago.
When it wasn't cool.
No one was a vegetarian, so he's never eaten meat in his life. So we just grew up like this, and I was always like the kid who had the brown bread when everyone had white bread, and we weren't allowed to have like the little packets of chips. And so I always felt like I had this deprived childhood because I wasn't allowed to have the little packets of chips, and I had the brown bread. I was that kid. So yeah, so that's just sort of where it came from.
I bet you don't feel like that now, though.
No, not at all.
I know. Okay, so you go and do Oxfam, which can be a walk, but did you run it?
Yeah, so it was me and 3 guys from the gym, and we just sort of went in. We're like, we're going to like run the flats, walk every hill, so a bit of a walk run, and I think we did it in about 15 hours for the 100K, which and I sort of found it really easy and really enjoyed it. Had a great day, and then one of the guys said, right, we're going to do this again next year. We're going to get a better team. Sort of got a few, two extra different people, and then we actually sort of really trained for it. Started doing some ultra, and that's probably how I got into it then was, went and did some 50K ultra runs as training runs for Oxfam.
Wow.
I
actually haven't heard, I've heard lots of paths into sort of this crazy long ultra stuff, but that's probably the first time I've heard the Oxfam event mentioned as a path into it. So that's really cool. And when after you trained that more seriously, did that next one feel even easier for you, or was it?
We ended up, I think we were the first mixed team and third overall. So we ended up in doing it in just under 13 hours. So
crazy.
And then I think obviously then from there, it just I really got the running bug, started doing more ultra marathons, and then it became what can I do from here? So started got into that ultra running community because I didn't even know anything like that existed down here. So then just went to races, met some of like the Mel Gambles, those people, Kelvin Marshall, those people who'd been around for a long time, sort of got to know them, Brett Saxon, and just you get to know them, you talk to them, and just from there, just found more and more races.
What did your family think when you were like a sort of, more of a gym kind of, adult, and then suddenly you're pushing the pram, and now you're running hundreds of kilometers in the trails?
I suppose it's they're like, all my family are really, really supportive. I have to say they've been great. They probably do have a bit of a laugh and about things. And obviously, I've got some girlfriends who are like, I remember, you did Oxfam, and then you do like 50K, and then it was 100K, and then 100 miles, and then 24 hours. I've got a girlfriend, and we've been friends for like 25 years. And she goes, yeah, I remember it was just like, marathon. And now it's like, it's like, what's next? And she goes, in the end, I'm like, oh, whatever, I'm not she goes, I'm not shocked anymore.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people just go from, 5, 10, 21, a marathon, and maybe then they I feel like I'm at the top now. And then they realize there's this thing called ultra, but we're talking about years. I'm probably talking about myself now. The process to get to that marathon is years from the time they started running often. And then they get there and you realize, actually, this is not the top of the pile. Of the things you can do. It really sinks in that
it is.
It's
crazy what's out there.
So what do you think drives you to keep, we haven't really pushed into the current things, because I know that you've been doing lots and lots of things in the last decade or so.
Yeah.
What do you think drives you to keep doing this?
I suppose early doors, it was always, like I said, you do 50K, like a race, and then it's an 80K, and then you do 100, and that's okay, well, what's next? Okay, I'll do a miler. I always felt for me, it was trying to find something to challenge myself, something different. And then from that, I might try a 24-hour, So it was just always trying to find something to keep me motivated. Yeah. And I love whether it's road, trail, track. So I do try to, I don't just run track. I don't just run road. I like to try and mix it up. And I find even that keeps my training interesting, because, if I'm doing a trail race, I go, right, predominantly most of my training is going to be on the trails now. If I do track, the same, I'll do my long runs on the track. So I find too, it's almost like, right, this race is over, close that door, what's next? And then it's almost, I try to find a race that's totally different, just to change my training around, to keep it interested all the time.
So do you think it's that challenge? It's that experiencing something that you haven't done already? Do you often go back and do the same race over and over again? Or are you looking for that? There's something else. There's something I haven't done, or that's something new. I haven't experienced that.
Yeah, like a bit of both. It's as weird as it sounds, and I know people don't get it. I love the 24-hour track racing, and for some reason, I love those, because I find I can just get in the zone. I can tune out. You can just to me, that's a fun race, and I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but then, I like doing, I went and did 50K up at Bulla, hut to hut in Feb, and I go, that was awesome. I loved, the ups, the downs. I love the hiking, going through, there was 20 river crossings. So it's just, I think, trying to just, for me, it's just that change and keeping it exciting and fun. And, I always said to myself years ago, when it stops being fun, that's probably when I'll stop running, I think, when it just doesn't become fun anymore, and it's still fun. So, and that's why I try to find things that just give me a goal and keep me motivated to keep running.
So how do you choose?
Okay, so this year, I think I have 3 very different races lined up.
Yeah.
So I'm doing Coburg 24-hour, which is mid-April. So that's my next race. That's what I'm training for at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then mid-June, I'm doing one of the backyard Dead Cow Gully. They've got the Australian Masters for the backyard, the loop on the hour, 6.7K. So that's up in Brisbane. So that's my race in June. And then in end of September, I've got into Spartathlon. So that's over in Greece.
Oh, so, tell me about that. I've never heard of that, but it sounds fascinating.
Yeah. So that's sort of for the second half of the year. So I go 3 totally different races, but so at the moment, it's all based around Coburg, track running, flat running, speed running. Then to go into Dead Cow Gully, that's like, it's a trail loop. It's a 6.7K loop. You do a night loop. At night, you do like a road loop. Mm-hmm. So once I finish Coburg, I will then just go out and be just doing 6.7K, 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 just focusing on that format. And doing my long runs in that format. So, and then Spartathlon's road. So that's point to point in Greece.
And how far is that?
246.
Can you say that again?
246 Ks.
I'm sorry. And then I'm like, are you Ks, miles or meters?
Yeah.
Wow. And that's on the road, like the one in Greece?
Mm-hmm.
Where is it like finish in some historic?
Starts at Athens and finishes at Sparta. So there is history around it. Yeah,
I've been one of those tourists in Athens and gone to the modern Olympic Games arena or whatever and stood on top of the thing and
So I only found out last weekend I got in, so that's sort of very exciting. Yes,
it's so exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's exciting anyway, but it's really like anyway, it just gives me lots of
I'm really excited about it. It's sort of one on the bucket list that I've been wanting to do, and obviously with COVID the last few years, like haven't been able to do anything, so it's probably made me a bit more motivated now to try and get some of those races, do some of those races.
So it almost feels like, so I don't know how to. So I read books like Dean Canaz's book years and years ago. And when I first heard about Badwater, for example, and when I saw that you've even done that, and I was like, wow, because, I love my running, and I love even the idea of doing some of these really long things. But the most I've ever done is 60. And I used to think that was really quite good until I started this podcast talking to people who are doing like crazy amounts, which I'd love to do. But then I don't know, my brain does this thing where it says, how on earth will I fit in enough time to train? But it's not just the time, it's even how will my body, how will I be able to do it? Because having trained I've done lots of marathons and things, but each time it feels like it takes a toll on my body. Does that make sense? And so then when I look at people like you and all these other people I talked to on the podcast who just seem like normal people, I think, what is it that you guys are doing that allows you to be able to take your body?
That's a good question. But I'll be honest, I feel like, especially at the moment, I train morning and night, which I do. Like I work full time, so and work's pretty crazy at the moment. So I'm usually, up probably 5:30. I run before work. Sometimes, and most days I do a run or even a walk after work, because I find that sort of works for me, those double sessions. I strength train. I really feel like since I've been doing the strength work, that's really made a difference. And I usually do that twice a week with a bit of Pilates as well.
Yeah.
And I think just as I've got older, the strength work is really, really
I think that's
important.
what I'm missing, actually.
Yeah, just so you don't break down, because I've probably got I've never really had an injury where I haven't ran, but I've had niggles, and it's a niggle that might mean, okay, no speed work for the next couple of weeks, or no doing hills. So I've got to modify my training. But since I've been doing this speed work, the strength work, I felt like I'm stronger. I noticed it at hut to hut, even on the downhills, like my legs and everything just felt stronger. So I just think that's really important. And, after, I taper into a race, usually after a big race, I'll have 2 or 3 weeks where I do nothing, but, I might just walk, ride the bike, just, so I really give my body a really good break, and then just slowly build back up again. So it's not like you just, 100% training the whole time, and there's up, taper down, have a break. And I think those ups and downs of what probably has allowed me to continue on and just to keep training and keep running.
Do you have a coach, or do you coach yourself?
No. I'm currently, my husband is a running coach, but he doesn't coach me. But yeah, Barry Loveday's been coaching me for 12 months. So he's a 24-hour Australian runner, lives up in Brisbane. So online, so we chat most days, and I think he knows me pretty well. And a lot of times I just do my own thing, but it's actually been nice having someone going, right, do this, do that, because I find that just makes it easier. Yeah. That I don't have to get up and think about, what am I going to do today? So he sends me over my week training program, and then I know what I have to do. So, and just tick the box, get it done.
So how do you get over the things in your mind where on those days or those weeks or just that period you're having where it's just all feeling very hard, and you're realizing you're doing this because you want to, no one's making you do that?
Yeah.
How do you get yourself out the door? Is it knowing that there's an event that's, whatever it is, away down the track through this training that's why you need to get all this training done? Is that one of the reasons, or do you have other things going on that push you, that motivate you to get it done even when you don't want to?
There's some days it's I don't want to, I don't want to run, I don't want to do this. And I'll be honest, I probably run every single day. I couldn't tell you the last time I haven't ran during on a day out of 7-day week. But probably knowing, at the moment I go, okay, I've got, in my head, I go, right, I've got 4 weeks left to Coburg, probably 2 more weeks of hard training. So that's, at the moment, I'm running about 160 Ks a week, probably running, like I said, most days I do double runs. So I'm sort of at the moment going, right, 2 weeks, and then I know I get a break. So that's one thing in my head. So it's just keep going, keep doing it. That's probably the one thing that motivates me, but it is hard. There's some days, even last night, I was tired, and then it's I've got to go out and do a second run and try and fit some strength work in. But I just go out and do it, and then you never get back and go, I wish I hadn't have done it. So I know I always feel better for it. Yeah. But it is hard. I'm like anyone, especially when you're working, you got a family, cooking, cleaning, all those things that you've got to do. And, they don't stop because you're training more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So obviously you have a very supportive family too, though, because there some slack would need to be picked up by the family in some way.
Well, I say trying to get my son in, he's nearly 19. So I don't think he's great. He's pretty good. But my husband, he runs. So I suppose he used to be a competitive runner. He coaches, so he gets it. And I suppose just together, we just sort of work it out, who's doing what. And it is what it is. I think this has been part of our life for so long. There's not much time just sitting around on the couch, doing nothing. But that's our lifestyle, for us, weekends away usually involve running, and, that's our fun that we have.
It's just what it is. I love it. I really do. A lot of our traveling involves not necessarily going for a race, but sometimes, but always there's a run, or 2 or 3, depending on how long we're away for. There's always a run involved as well. So I understand that.
Yes.
What events are you most proud of?
Probably winning Badwater. Yeah,
Tell us
that
about
was
that.
yeah, so that was back in, it feels so long ago, 2015.
Wow. Yesterday.
Yeah, like I just think for me it was, like I suppose I feel like I'm just normal. I'm like everyone else. I didn't come from a running background. Running wasn't my thing growing up. That I just go, it just proves that if you want something bad enough, if you work hard enough, you train hard enough, and not that I would say like I did anything extreme but the same. I just set that as my goal. I just focused everything into it. And it was so surreal, like, because I went there 3 years. So the first year I went there, I remember and I've told people this story before, they have a pre-race check-in, and I remember walking in and I actually felt like I was going to cry. And I just felt like it was almost like I'd walked into this bad dream, and it was like, what am I doing here?
Wow.
I just felt like I didn't deserve to be there. And I was like, I just want this over, because I was so scared. Like, what if I don't finish? What if I fail? Everyone from Australia knows I'm here. And it was like, I just want this over, because it was almost
Pressure.
like, yeah, I shouldn't be here. Like, I don't deserve to be here. I'm nothing special. And then obviously ran the race, had a great race. I came third that year.
Yeah.
It was an amazing experience. And then the next year, I just obviously thought, no, I've got to go back, because I'd been there, and I probably learned so much being there. And I went there, not that I went there to win, because I never thought I'm ever going to go there and win this, but I did go there going, oh, you know what, I might have a crack at the 40 plus age group record. So, and I'm very much, I keep things close to my chest. So I'd had a discussion with my husband and sort of said to him, this is what this is what I reckon I can do. I always have a girlfriend that I always catch up with religiously. No matter what race I do, we always have a champagne before I go away, the week leading into it. And I'd sort of said to her, I've got to go there. I've got to put it on the line this year. I feel, I've done the training, and I said, I don't expect to win, but I want to have a goal of at least trying to, try and break the 40 plus age group record. I know she looked at me like, oh, right. Okay. So we cheers and off we go. And I just, for me, it was just like I had this dream race that it felt so effortless. I felt like I could have just run all day.
And you did.
It was just, and I felt like there was I don't know if you've ever been in a race, but you feel like you're in a hurry and you've got to rush and you've got to, hurry, where it just felt so effortless. And even I was second most of the race, and I never felt a pressure, I've got to run hard to catch up. It was like it just all unfolded. And I remember when I did go into the lead, and my crew were like, oh my God, you're leading Badwater. And I'm like, don't say anything. I still had 50 Ks to go. And I'm like, do not say anything. And then as we got into Lone Pine, and you've got a 17K climb, they're like, you are hours ahead of the next female.
Oh, wow.
You've got this. And I'm like, don't say anything, don't say anything. And I remember my husband got out of the car and walked up, was walking part of the hill with me. And I said, I'm never going to run again. I said, how will anything top this experience? So it was just, and I think too, I've said to my husband, probably now looking back, I don't think I realized how big it was at the time. I said, for me, it was just, oh my God, I've won Badwater. But I said, I don't think I fully appreciated just what it was, sort of thing.
The achievement.
So, yeah. So that was it was just amazing. It was really cool.
Are you tempted to go back and do it again?
Look, I thought about it this year, but it's interesting. One thing, talking to Barry, my coach, and I suppose we all do it. He's like, don't get caught up in your past. He goes, don't keep trying to, relive what happened. Look forward, look for new challenges. And I think a lot of times, even myself, I've been caught up in that, going, oh, I want to go back. And I go, because I'm never going to have the same dream race. I'm older now, all the rest of it. And that's what he said, appreciate what you did, live in the moment. He goes, because, so many of us try and live back through that. Yeah. So that was one thing that I went, right, you're probably right. And that was another reason I entered Spartathlon, because I wanted to do something I hadn't done before, something that was a new challenge, and only 4 Australian females have done it before. So
Wow.
I just think it's just a new challenge, something that's sort of always been on my bucket list.
So for you, is doing well a thing, or is it more the, finishing an event? So I've spoken to different people with different credentials in their running, and, if some of them, if I just want to finish, and others I want to do, either better than I did last time, or I want to do well, so because they have different motivations. How do you fit in that?
Like, if I'm on, and I suppose it's funny because I'm not like, for me, I'm not someone who goes out and goes, I'm going to win, I'm going to do this. But deep down, I go into a race wanting to put, and whether it's my training, everything I do, I want to put 110% into it. So I go in with that mindset going, I want to do the best I can. And that, I go, winning, I suppose, is, yes, I want to win or do as best as I can. That's probably every race I go into. And I'm realistic now because I go, as I'm getting older. So that might be, okay, well, top 5 or something. So when I did Coast to Aussie in December last year, I was like, I want to be top 5 female, and I was 4th. So you know what? I was wrapped because I go, the girls that are beating me are 20 years younger.
Yeah.
So sometimes you got to be realistic and go, it's hard to be as competitive now as we're getting older. So I've got to move the goalpost to still, be happy with my performance and, compare apples to apples. So, you still have a bit of a goal going in there.
One of my thoughts, I started running in my 20s after I got, after my oldest daughter, Nikki, and I was 100 kilos. So I started running then in my 20s and haven't stopped. So I've been running, now I'm in my 50s. But at that time, because I then discovered I was actually quite good at it in a local way, not in any kind of massive way, but I was reasonably good at school as well. But I can remember thinking, so I had this, and I was quite competitive in my head, and I remember thinking I may not be able to beat everyone now, like I'm fast enough, but I'm not fast enough, but in another 50 years they'll all have stopped running and I'll be able to then I've got people like you and all these other people around me now, like the Amy's of the world, and I never ever, like, anyway, I'm like, why do all these fast people want to keep running for so long? Give up so that when I'm 80 I'll be the fastest 80th. And it's just not
my husband is like, we'll see someone shuffling down the street who's about 80. He goes, that's going to be you, like in 30 years time. I'm like, yeah, probably.
So
exactly.
That's the plan.
Exactly.
So you did say earlier that you haven't really had many injuries that have stopped you running.
Touch wood, no. Like I said, I've had a few niggles here and there, but nothing that I go, I haven't been able to run for a month or 6 months or something. So, most, just little things that I've had to tweak training, maybe have a run every second day. Sorry.
Right. I've got 3 of them here at the moment.
Sorry, I think it's...
There's somebody at the door probably.
Can you say... Sorry.
It's fine. Don't worry.
That's a crazy dog.
It's absolutely fine.
Yeah, no, I think too, like I'm very much listening to my body too. So I go, if I start to feel something's not right, I'll take a day or 2 off, or I'll get on the bike, and I just really listen to my body. I won't run through any pain, any soreness, and probably working at a physio, I know I can get it checked out pretty much straight away.
Oh yeah, that's handy.
Yeah, it is, and I think just from working there, I've got to know, like a lot of them say sometimes it's just a 48-hour break, do nothing, and it's enough to let things settle down. But people just persist on running, so it never has that time to let inflammation and things settle down.
We do talk on the podcast about the way our body can lie to us sometimes too. When your first couple of steps often and you run, it's like, oh, ow, oh, something is, it could be your ankle or your knee or a hip or something, and then 500 meters later it's gone completely. So it's that trying to really be in, and we talk on the podcast about mindfulness as well, and understanding our body and paying attention to it, like you say. It sounds like you're really in touch with what's going on in your body, to understand what the difference is. That you maybe if you do feel that niggle, and I'll put words in your mouth, but you go that little, you might run another 500 meters. Oh, it's still there. I'm going to stop, or something like that.
Too, like you might have a run and, you might feel something and it might be there for the whole run. And then the next time I go out, if it's still there, I think you start to realize, what doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
And that's where I'd probably go and see someone at work. Whereas I used to put it off for weeks, whereas now I just go and see someone and they might say, give it a couple of days. And then, give 5Ks, say it's Wednesday, run 5Ks Saturday, see how that feels. If that's good, do 10 Sunday. So then just that gradual deload, build back up. And then you can just sort of, you know what feels right, but I think it's just not pushing through something that doesn't feel right.
It's not working.
Yeah.
Often when we talk about injuries on the podcast, we talk about what it feels like when you can't run. I haven't really had that experience. To reflect on it, how do you think, like if you had an injury where you couldn't run for, say, 6 weeks or something, how would you cope with that?
Well, that's it. I haven't touched wood. Exactly. I haven't had something, but I've had days, even recently I had a hip thing, and I had to basically for 3 weeks and I was like in peak training, so I just had to cut my load back. I was on the spin bike every second day, so I just focused on doing that, focused on my strength work. And I just sort of go, it is what it is. And I looked at it and thought, I've done a pretty good 6 weeks of training, a bit of a deload for 3 weeks, because I could still keep my cardio up. I was still doing gym. That I just sort of look at it, try and turn it into a positive, get myself right, because I know like I had time to my next race to build back up. So I just tried to focus on what I could do, really focus on my strength work. And I just try to make that a positive and look at it and go, this is probably a good thing for my body. It's not going to hurt because I'm not actually doing nothing. So and it was fine.
When it comes to identity and your identity, I think the fact that you haven't always been a runner, but you've always been, someone who wants to be fit and enjoys that, and you probably don't even remember what it's like, or you've never had the experience of being, really unfit for a long period of time. Like your identity is a fit person, and you come from a fit family, So I think maybe that would save you from what would happen emotionally and mentally if for some reason you couldn't run anymore for a little while.
I think as long as I can do something, and then as long as I can do something, I'm okay. And it was interesting because back in September last year, October, went to Bali for a wedding, and I came back, I had a DVT in my calf. So I was basically told, no idea when you are going to be able to run.
Oh.
So that was really no running, no spin. The only thing I could do was walk for an hour. Ooh. But you know what? I go at the end of the day, that was actually really hard because it wasn't an injury.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like anything was wrong, but it was like they were just worried, obviously, if the clot moved. I had to be careful. Yeah. So I found that a lot harder because it was like, there's nothing wrong with me. Like, nothing sore, nothing hurts. I'm not limping around. But I found that harder because it was like, I'm only allowed to walk, but I feel okay, So that was probably the hardest thing I've been through.
Oh, that would be. Mind you, for some reason it made me think of, when I've had 5 children, but when I had, when I was pregnant, that's probably why I keep reflecting on things like that. As you're putting on weight when you're pregnant with baby weight, I sometimes used to wish, especially in that in-between time, that I had a T-shirt that said, I'm not overweight. It's a terrible thing to say, actually. And I'm not overweight, I'm pregnant,
Yes.
But it's the same when you can't, if you have an injury or something that's not physically, it's not just for you. And it is silly that we all refer to other people and reflecting, but it kind of works for us as well internally, as you were saying, that you felt great, but you knew that if you did it, there's this other risk. It's not a very good analogy, actually, but it's,
So that was harder than any injury, because I was like, I felt like I could just go and run. And we'd been in Bali, had an awesome week of training. It was coming into Coast to Aussie.
No.
And two, it was like, well, no one could tell me when I could run. So then I'm like, well, what do I do? So, and then eventually I got the all clear and was back running. So that was good.
All right. Now, tell me, when you're training, do you listen to anything, or do you not? Or
I'm a music, the whole, like from when I leave the house to, just iPod, just random, whether it's radio, music. Yeah. So I'm always listening to something.
You've always got something else going on.
Yeah, always. Yeah.
Do you train with others very much?
To be honest, probably not as much anymore. And really that's, I suppose, because it's just, sometimes just easier to get up, get out the door, go do your own thing. And, I live where I am in Melbourne, out in Listerfield. So there's some great runs around here. And it's funny because I'm not really someone, I don't like the thought process of driving somewhere to run, because I feel like I can just go out the front door and run. Yeah. So, like yesterday, my husband got his car service, so we dropped it off and ran home. So that's probably why I don't. Sometimes on the weekends I do, but yes and no. And I like running on my own, and then it's nice to run with company too.
Yeah, we live at the top of a hill.
Yeah,
it's very annoying, and out in the country a bit, and especially if you're not, you're going through a stage where you're not as super fit as you were at the time. That hill just feels like I'm looking at it now because I did it today this morning. I was like, and then to come home, I can run down. That's great, but then to run home, I get to run up this hill, and it's a kilometre long hill. So it's like, oh my gosh. Anyway,
I'll be walking that, don't worry.
Sometimes I do. Today I thought, no, because I've got the run next weekend. I thought, I really should run it. It's up. Anyway, so you're a big one for just going out the door. Like for where you live, you're lucky to live in a place where you can just head out the door and easily traverse to where you want to go.
I like running adventures. So last weekend, my son was playing, he plays footy, was playing over at Bundoora, which was like 45 k's away.
Yeah.
So I said, just run to footy. So I like to, because I find it fun, and it's like, it gives me a challenge. And then I actually had my phone out, like working out how to get there. And so it's like an adventure, and that keeps training fun for me. So I like doing crazy, funny stuff like that.
Part of that, we reflect again on the podcast a few times with mums, and that effect it has on our children when we see either mum leaves the house first and gets picked up, so they, because they're on the way, because you're making it a part of your life, whether it's often for kids' sport or something you're going to, or mum leaves or mum gets thrown out of the car and runs the rest of it. They often looking out the window, I guess, when your kids are at you running along the side of the road. And I think some of that is really beneficial in the way they think of for adults, and whether adults should move under their own steam and do physical activity because they want to, not because the teacher told them to or whatever. And I don't think there's any problem in your family, obviously, even from your own family, like when you were a child, that was also demonstrated to you, but that the examples that we provide to our children when we do things like that, I think is awesome.
Yeah, even with my son, like he's traveled overseas a lot with us. Which has been amazing. And even some of the countries he's got to go to, like I was in the Australian 100K team in Amsterdam, and he carried the flag for Australia. So he's been to China, America a few times, Amsterdam. So, I go, that's also been, I've loved being able to take him to some of those places. And, and I think now that he's older, he's been able to appreciate, him coming and crewing. And I've got photos of him like asleep, on the table after the race when he's, probably about 12 years old. So I feel that's been great that he's been able to travel and go to so many different places. And that's all because of running. And I often say to him, like, like he couldn't care less. Like I go, I've ran for Australia. Oh yeah, whatever. Who cares, because stuff like that. He's like, yeah, whatever, mum, so. But yeah, that's the one thing that has been really cool. It's just him coming to so many different countries, places, crewing, carried the Australia flag, wore the Australia top, and we went to a race in China, and at that point was when long hair was in for boys.
Yeah.
He just got mobbed by that many Asians because it's like, who is this, like long hair, blonde haired boy that they were doing interviews with him, and he was like a celebrity. So
wow.
yeah, so it was a pretty cool experience.
Oh, I love that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
When he's an adult, has he done much running? I guess I know you said he plays football, plays AFL. So is running something he ever does aside, like, or is it just as a part of his training for his footy? Is that
he did for a little bit, like did fun runs and stuff, but he's one of those natural runners that I say to him, if he actually put time in, and he plays pretty high level footy, pretty elite level footy, and I said to him, I watch him run and he's effortless and it's easy, and he'll go out and run 3-minute Ks, and and as I said to him, oh my God, if he actually put in some time and effort and trained, but he's just a natural athlete, but he's never really got into the running. Not now, because I think footy's his main sort of focus at the moment.
So one of the things I think he's really lucky to have is parents who are doing all of this exercise and sport, and especially running, because we're a bit biased on podcasts. We think running's the best sport, because it's something that he can do later.
Yeah, well. Exactly.
And it's in his, like, he's seen you guys doing it.
Yeah.
So he'll think it's in my genetics, which it is anyway, but as part of him. So whether he chooses to do it now or chooses to do it in 20 years.
Yeah, exactly.
His brain won't stop him and say, I can't do that. I'm not a runner. No one in my family runs. Instead, it'll be like, oh yeah, that's cool. I could run. That's right. My family run, and da-da-da-da.
I think it's been like, it is hard. Like, I think it has been hard for him at times because our expectations or mine is, high standard, train hard, push hard. So I probably have broken him a couple of times where he's got injured because I'm like, you need to be doing this, 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 and this. And I've had to just go back and go, you know what, like, and I suppose when you've been there and done it, and I know growing up, like, I never had anyone really help me with my training, whether that was tennis, basketball. So, even just saying to him, you need to find someone who can help you with your training, whether that's your footy, your running, your strength work, like I've got some good people around helping me. So I think it's important, like, he's nearly 19, to have those people,
support.
That support. And it's not me, it's not mum, but have someone around you who can help you with your training and stuff, because I think that's really important. But I do feel for him at times because I go, probably my expectations are probably a lot higher, and because I know how much I can suffer in a race. So sometimes, he'll go, I've got a sore foot. I'm like, so I've had sore feet for 200 Ks. So he doesn't get much sympathy from me. So yeah.
Okay, back to you. What is going on in your head in those very long runs? I know you got music on.
Music.
How do you help get yourself through?
Yeah, a lot of the times, like, depending what point of the race, obviously I think at the start you're all up and about and this feels great and you're loving life. And as the race goes on, things start to hurt. Like, if things start to hurt for me, sometimes it might just be turn the music up, a good song comes on. I try to think about my friends, my family. I try to go to a good place. I think about good memories in races where, things have felt easy and effortless. And I just try to draw on positive experiences, whether it's, I've even had races where I can, see myself calling my son to go, oh my God, like, I won this race or this happened, and calling my parents and things like that. So I try to go to that positive and sometimes just break it down hour by hour. So just, okay, get through the next hour. And then you get to that hour, I'm actually okay, I'm not as bad as I thought. Okay, now push a bit, get to the next hour. So breaking it down into small steps.
Chunks,
instead of going, oh my God, I've got 12 hours left of a 24-hour race. Like, just take it hour by hour.
Yeah. I love that. I spoke to Pat Farmer on the podcast, and he said one of the things he likes about these long distances is the way it breaks you down and builds you back up again by the end, so it's quite that process of, you hit a kind of low, but then builds you back up again.
100%.
That's where you grow.
You're never going to feel up and about. So I said, like at the start, it's great. You feel great. And then I think the reality sets in, like whether a 24-hour race, oh my God, I'm out here for 24 hours. I've done 6, I've got 18 to go. How do I keep motivated? Things start hurting, like your legs are hurting, your feet are hurting, like very rarely does something not hurt. So it's also trying to go, I've been here before. I know I'm going to feel better. Push through it, think of something positive, and then you start going, oh my God, there's 4 hours left. Like, and for me, I'll go, that's just a run, that's a run to wherever. I think of a 4-hour run. So then you start going, oh, now it's 3 hours, now it's 2 hours. So you start then going, I've got this, like I'm nearly done now. And you often find those last few hours, you can actually push a bit harder because you can see the finish line.
Yeah. There's that growing up, I grew up on a farm and horses were a thing. And that heading, the analogy I often use at halfway through a race, I also do that sort of thing, even though shorter distances. And I find it really empowering as well. And it's to me a bit like when you turn a horse for home. They tend to have more energy all of a sudden. And that's how I often found myself in races too.
Sometimes too, like, if it's a 24, I'll get to 12 hours and I count down. So I'm like, it's not, oh my God, I've got 12 hours. It's like, oh my God, 11, 10, counting back down instead of focusing on, oh my God, like they're so long. So trying to just turn everything into a positive.
Use the word only instead of,
only.
Like I've only got 11 hours to go.
And even your crew, like having the right crew that you like, you don't want someone to go, oh, it's okay, I know your feet hurt, stop. You want someone who goes, I don't give a shit, suck it up, keep running. Like, and I think having the right crew who know how to motivate you, who will bring out the best in you, makes a difference.
So if there are people listening to this podcast who have got desires to do some ultra type of running like you, how would you suggest they find a crew? Or that it's obviously people who know them already, or is it not? I don't know.
Like I suppose for me over time, it's usually family and friends. And then you get to, people I run with, I feel get to know me really well. Most people know they can give me tough love. I'm not someone who's going to break, if someone screamed out or abused me and I go, that probably I respond well to that. Like if someone, often my husband will go to me, you're shit. Like, I can't believe, whatever. And like, it's set in a bit of fun. But all of a sudden it's like, no, I'm not, so like sometimes knowing the right person, because you don't want someone being too kind to you, as funny as that sounds, because my mum came to a race and she was like, oh, you look like you're really hurting. Like, don't you think you should just sit down and have a rest? No, Mum. Like, I'm here to run for 24 hours.
It's like cracking the door open, isn't it? It's like,
exactly.
Oh, maybe I should. Hold on.
Exactly. So, you want, and, my husband will go, okay, get through the next hour. We'll get through the next hour. We'll reassess, but go hard. I want 8Ks. I want 9Ks. So even, he knows he can push me. Okay, give me another K with what, so I go, someone who knows how hard they can push to bring out the best in you. And I think you find those from the people you run with, your family. I don't think like mum and dad know they're not great, like parents, because they don't want to see you suffer. And even my husband now, he goes, it's so hard to see someone suffering out there. So like I think your running buddies, the one you run with a lot, the one who know you inside out, they're good choices.
And the ones who know they'll have to put up with you whinging about how you could have done better because later after a race, they don't want to have to hear all that. They want to know that you put in every bit that you can because they know that's what you want.
Yeah, exactly. And you have some people who can just bring out that last, Yeah.
What would be your favourite distance?
Funny. I mean, like I said, I don't know why, and people think I'm crazy. I love the 24-hour. I love them.
On the track.
And I do love point-to-point races. So that's another reason, like Spartathlon, point-to-point. I like even going out on training runs. I love point-to-point, like going, I have to get someone and then I'm done. So, yeah.
Do you like those Or I'll often do it like a loop. You didn't have to go back across where you've already been, but so it's like point to point, but you do start and finish in the same place. Or is it more that the point to point is that more?
I
could feel like you went somewhere.
Yeah, and I feel like then, well, there's no turning back. Like I have to go from A to B. I have to get there. Often I'll run from Listerfield to the city and catch the train back. And I'm like, it's cool. It's fun. Get there, get the train back, and you've got to get somewhere. So it just motivates me to keep running. Yeah.
We talk sometimes about that flow, like finding the flow, which you kind of explained before in the event, in the Badwater event. Have there been any other times in your running, not just in a race, but could be in training, that you can think about where everything just worked and it was perfect?
Do you know what? I'll be honest. I don't think you have those races very often, and that's why I think when you do, it's just like you sit back and go, oh my God, like nothing really hurt. Everything just felt easy. Because most long races, stuff happens, whether it's sore feet, blisters, stomach. Like I get a lot of stomach issues. So, I'm constantly and I suppose I go into a race like, already worried something's going to happen. So I try, so those races, and I think for a lot of people, they're few and far between, where everything you have your day, where it's your day and but I go into every race going, today's going to be my day. So I put everything on the line, that's where I go. I make sure like I've tapered, I've eaten well, I'm well rested. So I go, if you give yourself every possible chance, and then sometimes you just got to work through those little, like it might be blisters, and you can stop. And I think sometimes it's not being in a hurry, giving yourself time in like a 24-hour race. Goes, what, if I take 5 minutes, sit, change my socks, fix blisters, it'll pay off later in the race. Yeah.
Wow. I've been a lap counter in a 12-hour race.
Oh yeah.
Round and round and round.
Yeah, fun.
It was really interesting. What do you think running has given your life? So if you hadn't taken up running, you'd be missing it. So what do you think it's given your life?
It's funny because often I have conversations with running and you're like, oh my God, what would I do? Like, what would I do with all this time if I didn't run for a start? But I go, I've made a lot of amazing friendships.
Yeah.
I've got to travel like to every state in Australia. I've ran so many fantastic races in Australia, and it's like with running for Australia, it's taken me overseas, and the places I've got to travel that I go, I would never have gone to. Like I went to India last year, and I go, that was a place I would never ever have wanted to go to. It was the most amazing trip that I go, I'd love to go back there again. So it's opened my eyes to some places that I would never have ever thought to go to or wanted to go to. And I feel lucky that I've been able to do that, and I feel lucky that I can still continue running, and I still feel like I'm at a pretty good level. So when I look back, I just think it's almost like I've taken a pathway which I suppose like I never probably would have seen what's come from starting Oxfam, if you want to say, because like I said, I wasn't a lot of people like a strong run. I never ran and I go, so it's just been an amazing sort of experience what running's done for me and where it's led me.
Yeah. Can you reflect on, without, you don't have to go into any details, but where you've been running for 20 odd years almost, where running has been really helpful and that it's been supportive because life was a bit busy or crap, or things happen, because none of us get out of here alive, but things happen along the way that aren't pleasant, but where running was something that you were able to use as a support for that period of time in your life.
Like I was saying earlier when we were talking off, even at the moment, like work is crazy for me at the moment, and there's a lot of pressure, a lot of stress. There's just a lot going on, and like I've said to a couple of guys I work with, I said I can do 12-hour days all day every day as long as I get my running and I get my training in. And I said, for me, if I don't do that, I get more stressed. So I find I can deal with stress, I can deal with pressure a lot better as long as I've got my running, because that's my me time, and that's whether I'm running on my own, I've got my music in, I run in Listy, and I don't take my phone. So I've actually got, whether it's an hour and a half, 2 hours, just of me, and I can stop, not think about work, and I can tune out from work. And I actually then come back and I'm like, yay, I've got my running, right, let's go, let's get the day done.
Yeah, I love that. So, I mean, we were talking off the recording about just how, and it's worth mentioning again, because I don't think we can say it enough, that those of us who are runners are very guilty of saying, oh, well, I can't run at the moment because life is really crap and I can't fit it in. I'm dealing with X, Y, Z. But actually, they're often the times, like you just described, that you should be running. It's because it's going to then support you and make you able to deal with whatever's going on in your life, whether it's just busy work or other, things going on in your personal life.
100%. I think, just having that, it's you time, it's about you. And if you cannot take your phone and you can just have a couple of hours, because I think everyone needs, whether it's an hour, just, and even one day last week, I worked a 12-hour day. And I just said, right, I'm going out for a walk for an hour. I'd already ran in the morning and I just did my hour work. And then I'm like, right, I'm good to go back to work, because I know I'm doing something for me that's a benefit. And then it's like I've ticked that box. I can now focus back on work. And I think it's so important to make it a priority. And whether that's getting up half an hour earlier. I used to be someone to go, I can't go and run at 6 o'clock at night at dinner time. Like, I just go wherever now. I take my runners. I've always got a pair of runners in the car. Often, as stupid as it is, I'll go for a run in what I'm wearing to work. Not that I'm wearing a dress, but leggings and whatever. I'll just throw my runners on and go, I'm going to do a half-hour run. So I try to make the most of every opportunity. Even if it is just half an hour, I go, it's better than nothing.
I love that being prepared. At the drop of a hat, you're like
good to go.
What is it? Like a Boy Scout, but a running Boy Scout.
Exactly.
Prepared. Somebody mentioned on the podcast a while ago last year about how they found running was really good they would often run home from work, and it was a great way to put down all the, they said, crap that had happened at work and not take it home with them. So it was also a really good way for, those negative things or whatever that they were feeling because work was really hard or stuff was going on, and leave it at the door before they got home. And so didn't then, filter into the relationships in the house, which I thought was actually a really nice way to put it too. Like that was great to be able to decompress on the way home.
No, that is a good. Often, I sometimes run to work, run home, and but it's not long enough. It's only like 5K.
Oh, actually,
so I've got to make it go the long way.
That seems like a decent distance. Anyway, before we wrap up, and this has been amazing. We could talk for many, many hours. Is there anything about running that we haven't talked about that you would like to share?
Look, I just think if anyone, I love running. I love talking about it. I suppose for me, if people think, I can't run, or I don't know where to start, I go, it's just getting out the door. And like I said, I would never go back, my son's 19 years ago. I would never have thought, I've represented Australia 8 times, 100K, 24-hour, the races I've done, the places I've traveled. I'm just normal. I'm nothing special. I've just worked hard. I've trained. I've had goals. I've got good people around me. And I think it is just starting, and who knows what's going to happen, because that's probably what's happened to me. It's like, this has taken me on a wild journey that I never saw happening. So I think you just got to get started, because it is so good for the mind. And I know, women who've got kids, even when you've got kids, just being able to get out and have that time for you can then come back and and that's how I find, all right, I can focus on now this because my run's done. So you never get back from a run or even a walk. Sometimes I'll go for a walk and go, oh God, I wish I'd never done that. You always come back and go, that was amazing.
That was the best.
Yeah, always.
If somebody came up, this is a question I ask everybody at the end of the podcast. If somebody came up to you, and you kind of already answered it a minute ago, but if someone came up to you and said, I really want to start running, Nikki, what would you advise me to do? What would you tell people to do to get started?
I would say find a program, even just find a running coach, jump online, find yourself a program, because I think you, like, a lot of people get injured if they don't know what they're doing. So, jump online, get a program, whether it's like, I'm going to run 5K. So get a program for 5Ks. And then, when that feels easy, then, find a program for 10Ks. But I think just following a program, talking to people, if you know people who run, just pick brains. And I think that's the best way to get started.
Yeah, I love that. Awesome.
Thank you.
Best of luck for all the amazing adventures you've got planned for this year. We probably should come on and do this again at the start of next year and see what we think.
Yeah, see how they went. Fingers crossed, all good.
we can do a debrief for the races that you did this year, and then look at what you've got planned for 2024.
Sounds good.
Sounds awesome. But as I said again, inspiration, make me want to put my running shoes on, and I've already been for a run today. So.
Well, you've got to get and do it. I'm going to do another one later, so you can join me later.
What is that about?
Another 8Ks to get done. So
we actually have a local running group, which is really cool, really awesome. But I can never make it on a Tuesday because I run with friends that I've been running for 15 years on a Tuesday morning, and they're at Tuesday night. And it's in my calendar, and I keep going, oh no, I've already had my run for today. Yeah. Actually, what you're telling me is I should still do it and do 2 runs.
And I tell you, it's hard, but it's like you'll feel better. Even I do now. I'm like, oh God, I got to do a second run. But you know what? I'm going to get it done. So
you're probably right. I should be more serious about this running thing.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you again. Don't pop off. I will say goodbye to you off the recording as well. But I again want to say how grateful I am that you shared your time and wisdom with us today. It's been amazing.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Fit Mind, Fit Body podcast. I'd love to talk to you about your running journey. So send me a message on Facebook or on the website, and let's do it. For a bunch of resources on mindful running that will help you get and stay mentally and physically fit, head over to the website fitmindfitbody.co, and I'll see you there. Plus, I'll be back here in your podcast player a few times a week. Hit subscribe now so that you don't miss an episode. And before you go, I'd really appreciate it if you'd leave a review. It'll help more people to find the podcast and get inspired to start running. I'll see you soon. Bye.